working on the BBS some more. I had an issue, but as you can see, I've worked through it. What the issue was the BBS hadn't been logged into since June of 2018. And what was happening was the BBS was running currently perfectly fine until it came time to reset the time limits at midnight, after midnight. So it would crash and it wouldn't reset the time limit. So I was digging through the code for the BBS and finding the reset time limit part of the code to try to figure out why. Well, then it occurred to me that because maybe because it was so long ago, the variables were too large for the program to interpret because of the way it looks at the dates and everything. And that was it. So what it was I needed to change the date to closer to that 2018 and let it run the reset the time limit part of the program. Okay, well, that started working, and then it crashed again. It gave me an error in a different line, 262.37 here, and it was hanging up on this variable here, the L2 variable. So I looked up what is the L2 variable, and that was the last login, the person that last logged in, their user level, and so was wrong. It couldn't understand it. So I was like, what the heck? So I looked at the edit the password file and looked at the last login, which was me, and the user level was set to 892, which I don't know how it got that way, but it did, and it was way out of the specs of what it should be. It should be 9 maximum. That's a person with sysop privileges. So went into the password file, changed that, and now it's running the reset and time limit part of the program, and it seems to be working pretty good. Haven't had no issues yet. So if it gets through this, what I need to do is go back, change the time on the hard drive, again, jumping it forward, getting it closer to the current date, and without jumping too far, and let it run through this again. So I'm thinking I have to do it, a little less than a year in between each one. So I have to do it like, 4 more times. But that seems to be the best way, or the easiest way. Maybe not the best way. You could go in and change the some of the files, the storage where they stores the variables. I could go in there and change that manually, but I would be I'm a little wary of doing it that way. But anyway, so it's running. It seems to be running pretty good. It's clearing out old mail. It's validating the disk. As soon as it finishes validating the disk, it should be done with this part of it. And see, it runs this every midnight so that it resets the variables for how many calls you had that day, how many messages were posted that day, how many minutes were used by each user that day. It resets all those things and changes all those things to the current values. So this has to run every night, no matter what. So if something goes wrong in this part of it, it can really mess up everything. So see, I jumped it forward from 2018 to 2019, and it worked. So there we go. That solves that problem. So now what we're going to do is go back into the hard drive over here, change the date to 2020, and we'll let it run again. I'll do that a couple more times until I get it to the current date, and hopefully that will have the BBS ready to go. It seems that everything else in the BBS is working. I can go into local mode. I can log in. Checking the password file. There we go. Loading up my little Commodore graphics here. And of course, it's going to show you the news if there's any new news since the last time you logged in. And I was able to save a good many of the old messages that I had. They weren't on the floppy disk, but I found some older ones on a hard drive, so I transferred those messages over so we can go to the messages. Now this just shows how many new messages are in each category, but we can see that there's 648 messages, and we can go back by the most current messages, 648. So if we subtract 10 off of that, we'll say we'll read from 638 to the most current one. It'll pull it up and see, here's the old messages. This is from December 5th, 2017. So we won't have to, you can kind of go back and look at what was posted. And I think that's really cool. Don't have to start off with a completely blank bulletin board. It's all there. It's awesome. Anyway, we'll get out of here. I'm going to change the date again. There we go. We got it up to date. Everything's cleared out. It ran the update the time limits, updated everything. So that worked. I had to slowly go from 2018 up to 2023. I didn't slowly. I jumped a year at a time. And I know I had said earlier that it hadn't been logged in since 2018, but that was when this particular backup had been logged in. I think we ran the bulletin board up and through 2020, maybe, but I couldn't find a more recent backup. But anyway, this one is working. It seems like everything is working. Let's see. I noticed the messages were working. I've already tried to read through those. I believe the games are working without any issues. This, I've got to check this. It's showing this same news every time, and I'm not sure why. So I'll have to check that. But anyway, I've got to go through a lot of things, the modules, and check the code, update some of the stuff that I've changed and before, and there's a few other things that I want to change and straighten out. But I believe that is pretty much ready to go. This is the horse racing game. This was the most popular game on the bulletin board. Now this version, this is the original version. You just basically picked out a horse and it would run through. And if you win, it says, okay, you won. So what I did in the later version was I modified it to let you bet your credits, which you can build up credits by uploading to the bulletin board. And it lets you bet your credits. You can win more credits and keep up with it. And I was going to actually add in a leaderboard for the bulletin board for the person that was, the top credit earner. Either way, by betting And see, that's all it did. It let you race once, and then it was over. But anyway, so it looks like this is ready to go to the next step, which is getting it hooked up to my network and logging in locally through the network and testing out the bulletin board from another computer. So that's the next step. But we made it through the first one. And in between all these steps, I'm going to be working on the code. I need to condense some of these modules. I had done it in the latter versions that I had, but in this version, it's still the modules have a lot of unnecessary things that take up space. And when you're modifying a bulletin board, space is everything because you're very limited with the amount of memory you have. So I go in and I remove a lot of the REM statements, shorten up a lot of the text, abbreviate things. This is an example here. Like this says current time. I mean, I added this in here, but there's no reason to have current time on here. I could just have time, because why would I not be showing the current time? And then this says quick log off. We could change this to QWK, log off, so on and so forth. But anyway, and like this says absolutely sure. It doesn't need to say absolutely. You can, shorten that down to are you sure? And it makes it a little, save space, saves memory. So all of that is important. So the log off seems to be working. Our log off messages work. And you can skip the log off messages and all that. That's what the quick log off is for. But this is the first time I've logged off the long way. And as long as everything loads up and saves correctly, yes. So we're good. So it updated the number of calls. And the last caller is going to be me because I'm the only one calling. But anyway, it looks good so far. On to the next step, getting it hooked up to my local network.